Hello, thank you for joining us here at WooFDRiver.com. I'm Bentley Bryant, and tonight I will be reading from my series titled After Midnight. Tonight I will be reading from Up and Away, Part 2. No, it's no joke at all. Completely startled by the voice behind them, the Ruggierios spun around and Michaela gasped. Nicholas now remembered where he had seen the lady in the photo, and Michaela recognized her as well. She was standing right in front of them, staring and writhing something in her hands. It was the strange lady they had seen yesterday in Rock Energy. It was the witch, and she was standing just a few feet away, staring, glaring to be more exact. Salima Grimsby. As she extended her hand, the Ruggierios both recoiled slightly at Salima Grimsby's scrawny hand that ended in long black nails. It didn't help that her nails were all pointed. Michaela slowly extended her hand when Salima Grimsby's whole demeanor suddenly changed. "We are so happy to have the both of you." She sounded a bit crazy, but both Nicholas and Michaela played along, just in case. No need to make an awkward situation any worse. My. Celebrating our second anniversary, are we? Yeah, that's correct. Before Nicholas spoke, he clearly hesitated, looking at Michaela, who just returned his "what the heck do we do now" stare. My husband Warland is outside getting all the last minute flight stuff ready for you guys as we speak. He's a perfectionist when it comes to flying and is one of the most experienced balloon pilots around these parts. Hearing that made Michaela chuckle a bit, mostly inside, but just loud enough to catch another glare from Salima. Orland will join us here any minute. In the meantime, let's get all of your personal belongings locked away here. Knowing his wife and knowing that she was about to question the whole "leave your valuables here with me while my husband flies you off into the wild blue yonder," Nicholas beat her to the punch. "Tell me, Miss Grimsby, why are patrons required to leave their valuables here before takeoff?" Knowing her husband and knowing full well what he'd just done, she just gave him the "really, Nick" glance. "Well, now, I'll answer that question for you, buddy." A gruff voice came from behind them, making them both spin around, and Michaela gasped audibly. It came from a short stump of a man with a hump in his back. As he extended his huge hand, he introduced himself as Warland Grimsby. Visibly afraid, Michaela stepped behind Nicholas as she shook the man's hand. It seemed the moments were becoming more and more awkward by the minute. "Good to meet you. We're the Ruggierios." "Ah, yes, Mr. and Mrs. Ruggiero, the honeymooners. Welcome. Very glad to have you with us." "Dear, how much have you told these fine people?" "Well, dearest, we were just about to put away all of our belongings and then head out back." "Nice. Well, addressing your question, Mr. Ruggiero, we've decided to enforce the long-standing rules of leaving your personal items locked up here, where they'll be perfectly safe until our return. In the recent past, we've had some unfortunate accidents involving people who, let's say, got a little overzealous during the flight, taking pictures and getting caught up in the moment. Because of this, we've had a few fall overboard." At that, the Ruggierios both heard the Grimsbys snicker. Speaking quickly, Salima chimed in. So that's the reason, Mr. Ruggiero. It is for your safety. Besides, once you're up and away, your cell phones are useless anyway. You won't be able to get a connection up there at all. With that came more snickering, only louder this time. Suddenly, Nicholas and Michaela weren't feeling safe at all. After locking away their personal items, the Ruggieros followed Mr. Grimsby, who had a serious limp, out to the back lot where their fully inflated balloon awaited them. Glancing back, Michaela observed Salima, who stood in the back door of the building, watching them as they crossed the back lot, still glaring. The balloon was beautiful, with every color imaginable around its design. It was being held down by 3 attendees who never looked directly at either Nicholas or Michaela. One of them, addressing Mr. Grimsby, cowered down as he said, "She's ready for flight, sir." As the others nodded in agreement, Mr. Grimsby smiled and said, "Well, I guess we'll be taking off then." Opening the carriage door, he gestured for Michaela to enter, ladies first. Extending his huge, sweaty hand, he took Michaela and held it as she climbed on board. Grimsby's hand was extremely cold and wet feeling at the same time. Quite slimy to the touch. Trying to hide her disgust, Michaela wiped her hands on her jeans as soon as Mr. Grimsby turned to address Nicholas. Having touched Grimsby's hand earlier, Nicholas helped himself aboard and Mr. Grimsby quickly followed, securing the carriage door. Mr. Grimsby picked up a clipboard to complete pre-flight check. Have to make sure all is right before we take flight. More snickering. Cute. The Ruggieros looked around the carriage too. It was evident that the Grimsbys went all out to make sure the balloon's carriage was top notch. Looking around made them both feel better about the flight. There was an ice chest full of cold drinks, a small Bose boombox, and a nice compact couch. It also had a huge medic bag, as well as a fire extinguisher. Looking around, Michaela noticed a beautifully engraved wine case that contained 2 crystal champagne glasses, a fancy corkscrew, and monogram coasters. Very nice. Now I see where they're spending the money, she whispered to the husband. For sure, he whispered back as he marveled at all of the amenities. It seemed the perks were beginning to outweigh the quirks.